I never knew Henry Ford's heartbreaking sacrifices could lead to a life-changing revelation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment was so surreal, I thought I was living in a nightmare. My hands trembled, my heart raced, and the world seemed to blur around me. It was as if a dark cloud had descended, crushing the light. With every tick of the clock, anxiety tightened its grip on my chest. I was deep in the shadows of a well-worn office, staring at old photographs. My grandfather's proud smile in one frame, beside a young Henry Ford in another. I've spent years piecing together their relationship, a mystery wrapped in whispers and secrets. Ford wasn't just an innovator, he was a man of sacrifices, a person shaped by loss and heartbreak. The stories in my family painted him as a giant, a titan of industry, but there were cracks behind that mask. I could see it in the way my grandmother would pause, her eyes glossing over with unshed tears when his name was mentioned. They lingered on her lips like a ghost, haunting her words. "He lost everything, you know," she would say, her voice a mere whisper. Every story had a drip of sorrow. A hidden tragedy no one dared to explore, but I had to know. What was it that Ford lost? What did it cost him? It felt like I was standing on the edge of a vast chasm, the invitation to leap echoing painfully in my ears. I unearthed documents, letters, even kept my hands steady as I flipped through yellowed pages. I held my breath. The room felt colder as I discovered shocking truths hidden for decades. There were mentions of betrayal from those closest to him, entwined with calls for his vision, his relentless pursuit of progress. The names scrawled in ink were familiar yet haunting, like echoes of a distant storm. A deep sadness washed over me. How could the pioneer of the assembly line also suffer such personal loss? In that moment, the sound of shuffling paper filled the air, breaking the stillness. I jerked back, startled. The realization dawned upon me: someone was watching. A gaze, heavy and penetrating. I spun around, but the room was empty, save for flickering shadows dancing along the walls. My heart thundered, resounding in silence. Who else knew about Ford's hidden tragedies? What were they hiding? Every breath felt heavy, like the weight of 1,000 secrets pressed down upon my chest. Had I uncovered more than I bargained for? As the sun dipped low, casting long, eerie shadows, the walls seemed to close in. Doubts crept in: should I keep digging, or would I unearth something I couldn't handle? As I took a deep breath, my phone buzzed, breaking the heavy silence. A message flashed across the screen, chilling me to the bone: "Stop asking questions. You don't want to know the truth." My hands trembled as I fought to comprehend what lay ahead. Who was I up against? And was the truth worth the risk? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air in the office felt charged, thick with tension that left no room for comfort. I stared at my phone, the uninvited message searing into my mind. My heartbeat quickened, a frantic drum echoing through the space. I glanced around, half expecting to find whoever sent that foreboding text lurking just beyond the doorway. But the room remained empty, cloaked in a silence that almost screamed. The urge to flee bubbled within me, but deeper forces urged me to stand my ground. The truth that hung over my family like a gathering storm could not be ignored. With resolute determination, I returned my focus to the papers strewn across my desk, the remnants of a life that shaped not only a business but an entire nation. As I ran my fingers over a faded letter, the words leaped off the page: "You cannot change the past, Henry. The sacrifices are the foundation of your success." It was a response from one of Ford's closest allies, but there was an edge to it, an underlying threat. Should Ford pursue his vision too aggressively? My stomach twisted. He had lost more than just personal connections. It seemed he had faced a war from his own inner circle. With every discovery, I felt a pang of empathy for the man who was larger than life but was also deeply human. His journey was threaded with grit and determination, yet peppered with longing and grief. I closed my eyes, imagining his unrelenting drive peppered with regrets. What happened to the people he loved, the friendships he would never reclaim? The darkness deepened, and uncertainty gnawed at me. Was there a line between ambition and destruction? I needed to talk to someone who could shed light on these revelations, but who could I trust? Just then, the creaking of the door broke the stillness once more. I looked up, hoping to see a friendly face, but it was Nathan, my skeptical colleague. His brow furrowed as he noticed the disarray on my desk. "Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost," he remarked, his eyes darting to the scattered documents. "More like a combination of ghost-soft stories buried alive," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "I found some letters about Ford." "It's complicated." He stepped closer, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" "What's complicated? His sacrifices, his losses. It's deeper than I thought." "There's something sinister lurking in all of this," I confided, my breath heavy with the weight of my discoveries. "And someone just warned me to stop digging." Nathan's face tightened with concern as he leaned in, lowering his voice. "You can't ignore that. Things like this can get ugly, and I know how your family can be. They guard their secrets fiercely." A flicker of kindness surged within me. He was expressing genuine care, something that felt increasingly rare amid swirling doubts. "But I can't turn back now, Nathan. I feel compelled to uncover the truth," I insisted, though a part of me quivered at the thought of what lay ahead. He hesitated before placing his hand on my shoulder. "Just promise me you'll be careful. You don't know who you're dealing with," he said, his voice laced with urgency. The warmth of his gesture broke through the chill in the room, offering a moment of unexpected hope amidst the darkness. But the fleeting comfort was soon eclipsed by the unyielding realization that my obsession had consequences. As I prepared to immerse myself in the depths of this family saga once more, my phone buzzed again, cutting through the momentary solace. It was another text, this one from a number I didn't recognize. "You're not safe. The past is not done with you." A cold shiver cascaded down my spine. What did that mean? I turned to Nathan, breathless and anxious. What should I do? Before he could answer, the power flickered, plunging the room into shadow. In the darkness, the walls whispered secrets I dared not hear. The office was suddenly cloaked in uncertainty, echoing the very fear I felt in the depths of my heart. Then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, intentional and relentless. My throat tightened, there was no escape. In that moment, I understood that the journey was no longer just about uncovering Ford's past, it had become a perilous path intertwined with my own fate. The door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in obscurity, their silhouette sharply defined against the fractured light. My breath caught, and as their face came into view, one thought pierced through the chaos. I had unwittingly opened Pandora's box, and inside lurked the very thing I feared the most. "Looking for me?" the figure asked, their voice smooth, yet laced with a chilling familiarity. What began as a quest for truth now stood on the precipice of revealing far more than secrets. I had inadvertently become a part of a narrative that threatened to engulf my life entirely. The figure before me stepped into the faint glow of the emergency lights, and my heart raced as recognition collided with disbelief. It was Alice, a name I hadn't heard in years, a ghost from my childhood that I had thought faded into oblivion. Here she stood, not as the carefree girl I remembered, but with an aura of unmistakable Nwinga heaviness that scrunched her brow and tightened her lips. "Alice," I managed, the word barely a whisper. "What are you doing here?" She crossed the threshold, the door creaking ominously behind her. "I came to find you, Henry. There are things you don't understand, things about your past, about your family, about Ford." Each word dripped with urgency, and suddenly, the oppressive air of the office transformed into a battleground of memory and emotion. My family? What are you talking about? My voice quavered as I took a cautious step back, fully aware that this woman held fragments of my history I'd never fully grasped. I thought I had navigated my family's shadows, but with her presence, the road ahead grew clouded. Alice leaned closer, her tone dropping to a desperate hush. "You have to listen to me. Your father held a secret close to his heart, and it's still imprinted on you. I knew him, Henry. I knew what he sacrificed. The letters you found there only a part of the story. There's a deeper pain you need to uncover, and it won't let you go until you face it." The walls of the office closed in, pressing against me with the weight of impossible truths. What do you mean? What did he sacrifice? I gulped. So many uncertainties had begun to take shape around the events of my father's life, and the connections between him and Ford were far murkier than I had anticipated. Alice looked down, a flicker of sadness crossing her features. Are you ready to hear it? To face the secrets that could redefine everything you thought you knew? She looked back up, her blue eyes piercing into mine. It's not just about ambition, Henry. It's about blood, fallen comrades, and the ghosts that haunt those who dared to dream. There was a crack in her voice that echoed the pain of a memory far too heavy to carry alone. She had witnessed something that had hollowed her out, just as I had felt hollowed by intrigue and fear. I nodded, though the dread in my gut crept closer. Yes. Please, tell me. With resolve and trembling hands, she began to recount a tale woven with whispers of my father's past, of debts hidden behind the clamor of success. She spoke of alliances forged in secrecy, friendships torn asunder like brittle paper, and the true nature of the losses that had sometimes left him feeling more like a monarch than a man. To build a legacy, she said, sometimes one has to forsake everything, even the things that keep them human. The office, once merely a hub of research and ambition, morphed into a theater of painful realizations. As I absorbed her words, a part of me recognized the swirling shadows above the unurged, unexamined fears we locked in attics of our minds. Why tell me this now? I asked, an edge of desperation creeping into my tone. Why not before? Because your father rarely spoke of it, wanted you to have a life untainted by the past, she replied, clenching her fists as if trying to rip the very memory from her soul. But legacy has a way of coming back for what it lost. And where you're concerned, Henry, it's not finished with you yet. As each revelation unfolded, I felt my foundation shake, the blocks I had carefully constructed to build my life began to slip from place. I searched her face for answers, but there was only a haunting sorrow, a premonition of what was to come. Suddenly, the electricity flickered back on, casting harsh light across the room. I blinked against the brightness, and from the corner of my eye, I caught Nathan standing in the doorway, confusion coloring his face. The look exchanged between us spoke of unsaid questions and new doubts, deepening the chaos of the moment. Do I know you? He asked Alice, his brow furrowing deeper with suspicion. Not yet, she replied coolly, but there was a tension building. They were two strangers caught in an interwoven destiny, one that hadn't fully revealed its horrors. Just as I opened my mouth to explain, a crash echoed from outside, rattling the windows. My heart froze as the alarming sound prowled ever closer, followed by a chorus of urgent shouting. I glanced at Alice, confusion and fear knitting my brow. Something's wrong, Nathan said, rushing past me toward the door. We need to find out what's happening. Before I could react, Alice grasped my arm tightly, her eyes wide and resolute. You can't just walk away, Henry. It's all connected, and whatever is coming could unravel everything. A shock ran through me. What are you talking about? But even as I asked, my instinct prodded a certainty gnawing at my resolve. The past was not done whispering its demands. Nathan's voice melded with the chaos outside, calling for clarity amid confusion. I felt the untamed beat of my heart echo through the chamber, the opposing needs to run toward the danger and the urge to hide from the truths threatening to engulf me. The weight of decisions loomed, unbearable, and just as I prepared to step toward the door, the lights flickered again, this time plunging us into darkness. The silence that followed was thick, leaving only the pulse of my consciousness, and then, right before everything plunged into chaos, an unthinkable revelation crept into my mind. Maybe, just maybe, the sacrifices made by my father were not sacrifices at all. They were choices fueled by desperation, leading me into the depths of a legacy that might very well destroy everything I held dear. Henry, Alice said, her voice barely a whisper, you have to choose. In that moment, the world outside and the shadows of old truths collided, leaving me teetering on the edge between revelation and despair. The darkness swallowed us whole, the air thick with uncertainty and fear. I could only hear the hurried breaths of my companions as I grappled with the tremors of Alice's words. You have to choose. But what was the choice? Between confronting this terrifying legacy or allowing it to consume me? As the world outside erupted with chaos, a sliver of light pierced the blackness as the emergency lights flickered back to life. The stark illumination revealed the anxiety etched on Nathan's face, a soldier on the front lines of a battle he didn't even know he was fighting. Alice's eyes were shadows of their former brightness, lighting up only when she fixed her gaze on me. Henry, listen. She stepped forward, her brows knit in a fierce determination. You can't hide from what your father did, from what he lost or what he left behind for you to find. The truth is out there waiting, and so is whatever has come for you." Before I could respond, we heard an explosion outside, rattling the very foundation of the building. Nathan rushed to the window, peering out into a night lit with flickering flames and shadows of chaos moving with purpose. "We need to go," he shouted, turning back to face us. "We can't stay here much longer." My mind raced, teetering on the brink of panic. Do I flee into the unknown with Nathan, or do I face whatever despair awaited me with Alice at my side? The once familiar walls of my office now seemed to close in as memories of my father surged unbidden, the stories he never told merging with the new and cryptic narrative unfolding before me. "What about Ford?" I demanded, my voice brimming with turmoil. "He's linked to all of this. If there's any danger, it has to do with my father's choices." Alice moved closer, her presence grounding me even in the tempest of uncertainty. "Henry, sometimes the answers lie in confronting the past. Trust me, it's not the dead that haunt us but the choices we make while we're still alive." Just as I was about to respond, a frantic pounding followed by the clamor of boots echoed down the hallway. Nathan put a hand on my arm. "We have to move, now." I stood frozen for a moment. The memory of my father, his laughter, his furrowed brow as he worried over the burdens of his legacy felt too fresh, too raw. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but Alice's eyes searched mine, imploring me to stand still, to face the truth. Then, as if guided by a force beyond my understanding, I stepped toward her, feeling the undeniable pull of the past. "We have to find out what really happened. I need to know what he lost, what he threw away to build his empire." Her face softened for a fleeting moment, and in her eyes lay a flicker of understanding, a kindred spirit recognizing the agony of uncovering buried truths. "It won't be easy," she warned softly. "And it could lead to painful revelations." But before I could respond, the door burst open. A figure cloaked in shadow stepped into the light, an unexpected arrival that sent a chill down my spine. "You're not safe here," the newcomer said, voice low but urgent. "They're coming for you, Henry. You can't stay." "Not now." Startled, I glanced at Nathan and Alice, both of them equally frozen but ready for action. There was something oddly familiar about the figure. Had I met them before? Memories danced just out of reach, and my heart quickened at the thought of another connection to my father, another strand in the web of lies that enveloped my life. "Who are you?" Nathan asked, instincts on high alert as he stepped protectively between me and the figure. "I'm someone who knows the truth about your father's past," they replied, pulling off their hood and revealing eyes that glinted with warmth and sorrow. My heart lurched. "Sophie, my childhood friend, the girl with laughter like music and warmth like spring sunshine." She had always been a beacon of light, someone I thought I'd lost forever. "Sophie?" "Henry," she breathed, relief flooding her face, but it quickly faded as she looked beyond us, eyes widening in fear. "They're here. We have to go, now." The flames outside flickered ominously, illuminating the chaos that awaited us beyond the threshold. In that heartbeat, time warped, and reality unraveled as I turned to Alice and Nathan. The weight of my father's choices hung heavily above us like a tempest ready to strike. "Are you ready to face the ghosts of your past?" Alice asked, her voice steady yet trembling. I could sense the unyielding courage behind her question, the weight of shared burdens. Before I could answer, a thunderous roar erupted from outside, sending debris crashing against the building and forcing us to take a collective breath. With the specter of impending danger lurching closer, my heart raced as I weighed my options. It was an unbearable moment suspended in time, a boiling point where hope, fear, and revelation entwined, yet deeper still, a truth whispered, a solution hidden in the folds of uncertainty that perhaps my father's heartbreak bred not just pain but a chance for redemption and revelation. As the world around us spiraled into chaos and the echo of decisions loomed heavy, I realized that this wasn't merely about my legacy, it was about our survival, mine, Alice's, Nathan's, and even Sophie's. I had to choose, but before I could, the air pushed back with a force that promised to shatter everything we thought we knew. "Come on!" Nathan yelled, breaking through the tumult, urgency driving him toward the doorway. With that, I stepped forward, adrenaline pulsing, driven by an instinct greater than fear, and beneath the fury of our choices, we leapt into the darkness. The corridor felt endless as we barreled down, the dim emergency lights flickering like a heartbeat in a panic-stricken body. My thoughts raced alongside my pounding heart, battling against the cacophony of fear that weighed on my chest. Sophie running beside me brought both comfort and confusion, a connection to a past I had long shied away from. "Where have you been?" I gasped, capturing a glimpse of her face, still marked by the innocence of youth but hardened by something deeper. She had been the one bright spot in the shadows of my childhood, a flicker of light that seemed so long ago. "Or around," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding us. "There are things you don't understand, things your father tried to protect you from. But we have no time for that now. You're in danger. They won't stop until they find you." Behind us, the sounds of destruction trailed close, a haunting reminder that we were not the only ones seeking escape. Nathan's urgency was palpable as he led the charge, with Alice close behind, her fierce eyes darting around as if scanning for unseen threats. "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperate for clarity amidst the din of confusion and fear. "Your father's decisions had consequences that put all of us at risk." "I didn't know until it was too late," she whispered, a tremor running through her words. "You need to understand that his sacrifices weren't just for power, they were to protect you, but they left us all vulnerable." Each revelation tugged at the fraying edges of my resolve. My father's legacy hadn't been built solely on ambition or greed, it had been a desperate attempt to shield me from something sinister lurking beneath the surface. I felt an ache in my chest for the man I'd barely known, a longing to connect with him, to understand why he had sacrificed so much. Yet here I was, caught in a storm of turmoil, faced with questions I wasn't ready to answer. Suddenly, all at once there was a loud crash that rattled the walls, causing us all to stumble. Time slowed, and for a second, I could only hear the frantic rhythm of my own heart. We rounded a corner, a narrow escape route promising a shred of hope. "We can't keep running," Alice shouted, her voice slicing through the disarray. "We need to confront this. Henry, whatever it is they want, it's tied to your father's secrets. I can feel it." "Do you really think it can help us?" I countered, battling against despair. "What if it's all just a trap? If we don't find out, the uncertainty will eat you alive," she said, her eyes locking onto mine with fierce determination. My heart warmed at her unwavering conviction. She believed in me even when I faltered. Sophie interjected, bringing us all to a pause. "We can't stop now. I know a way out, but it won't be easy." "We'll need to move through the basement, it's old and rarely monitored." "Then let's go," Nathan urged, looking over his shoulder, anxiety evident as the echoes of chaos grew closer. As we slipped through a door into the darkness of the basement, a suffocating chill enveloped us. The air was thick, damp with memories of neglect, and a faint smell of damp earth filled my lungs. My claustrophobia began to creep in, but I pushed it aside. I had to be strong, not just for me, but for the people who risked everything to help me. We turned a corner and came to an old, rusted door. Sophie's hands trembled as she unlatched it. "There's something I need to show you," she said, stepping through with trepidation. Inside, the room opened up into a forgotten Archivia treasure trove of dusty boxes and yellowed documents, items trapped in time. As my eyes adjusted, I could see it was a relic of my father's past, entangled with secrets he had kept from me. "What is this place?" I marveled, stepping forward. "I found it after he died," Sophie explained, her voice a mere whisper. "I thought it held some answers, but I was never brave enough to dig deeper. There's something in here, Henry, something your father didn't want you to see." With a deep inhale, I opened one of the boxes, fear and anticipation coursing through me. Inside were journals, me father's writings, filled with thoughts from a time before I existed, a chronicle of struggles and choices that had rippled into my world. I reached for one, catching glimpses of a man torn between duty, love, and betrayal. "Did you ever read them?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "No," Sophie admitted, her gaze lowered. "But I think it might hold the key to understanding everything, why he had to make those sacrifices or what he had to lose." My fingers traced the spine of the journal, its weight was a reminder of the burdens it contained. The sound of footsteps echoed, thundering in the distance, forcing me to weigh my options. Would unraveling my father's legacy open a path to freedom or a descent into deeper darkness? As I hesitated, I noticed Alice standing back, her expression a portrait of compassion. "Henry," she said softly, "whatever you decide, I'll stand with you. You don't have to face this alone." Suddenly, there was a loud crash from above, dust falling from the ceiling as panic unfurled. "They're coming!" Nathan yelled urgently. With a sudden rush, fear and revelation collided inside me. Whatever truth lay within those pages could give us the edge we needed against the storm that was quickly closing in. As I moved to grab the journal, a loud noise erupted directly behind us. Debris fell, a shadow loomed, and just like that, everything we had fought for surged toward an unseen crescendo. Go! I yelled, clutching the worn journal to my chest. We scrambled as chaos erupted around us yet again, but this time I wouldn't run blindly into the night. I would face my father's legacy, no matter the danger. And as we hurtled towards the uncertain future, it was the heavy weight of hope versus fear that carried us forward. But with each step, I scratched the surface of a hidden truth that could shatter everything I believed. As the shadows fell, I understood that the real journey was just beginning, and nothing would ever be the same again. The echo of the collapsing ceiling reverberated through the room, a chilling reminder that time was running out. As dust swirled around us and the air thickened with a blend of fear and uncertainty, I clutched the journal to my chest, my heart racing with both trepidation and resolve. We might not have had answers yet, but the need to unearth my father's past now felt like destiny rather than a choice. Henry! We have to go! Nathan shouted as he shoved past me, keeping a wary eye on the entrance. We can't stay here, we'll be trapped. What about the journals? Sophie insisted, her voice barely cutting through the panic. These could change everything. I glanced around at the trove of secrets that had been buried for so long. The weight of my father's choices, his torment, and his sacrifices now dangled in the balance between us and an uncertain future. I can't leave it here. I need to know. Alice stepped closer, her determination contrasting the desperation around us. You don't have to do this alone, Henry. Let's figure this out together. Just grab what you can and let's move. With a racing heart, I rifled through the boxes, yanking out a few journals that felt essential, their pages thick with the unspoken burden of buried history. The words scrawled in my father's handwriting leapt out at me, even as I heard the distant sound of boots marching closer, fueled by a purpose I could only shudder at. My fingers quivered against the soft, aged paper, overwhelming emotions grappling inside me, a longing for connection, an urge to unlock the truth. As I shoved the journals into a large canvas bag, I felt Sophie's hand on my arm. We need to move, please. More than ever, we need to find a safe place, she urged, her eyes wide with fear. Right, I breathed, feeling the weight of her gaze like a guiding light in the gloom. Let's go. We bolted from the archive room, adrenaline surging through our limbs as we dashed back through the basement, hearts pumping a shared rhythm of urgency. The walls felt claustrophobic, almost sentient in their intent to trap us, but I pushed through, fueled by the flicker of hope that had ignited within the chaos. Emerging into a narrow corridor, the air thickened with foreboding, and I could hear muffled voices ahead threatening, menacing. We halted, hearts pounding in unison, assessing our predicament. Do we go back? Nathan huffed, glancing at me, an unspoken plea in his eyes. No, we can't. If we turn back, we'll be cornered, I said, gripping the strap of the bag tightly as if anchoring myself against the chaos. We need to find another way out. There has to be an exit somewhere. Alice squinted into the darkened recesses of the corridor. Follow me, she whispered, leading us into a side passage. The darkness enveloped us, but ignited a sense of defiance within my chest. Just then, Sophie fell back, her breath coming in hitches. This is fraying, everything's fraying, she murmured, and I could see her trembling. The facade of bravery she had worn began to crack underneath the enormity of what we faced. I am scared, Henry, she confessed, her voice cracking. I halted, facing her with all the sincerity I could muster. I am too. But whatever is waiting for us has the power to unravel everything we thought we knew, and we can't let fear triumph. Not now. In that moment, we were no longer just fleeing or running. It felt like we were charging towards something far greater than ourselves, something that could redefine our histories, maybe even shape our futures. Surrounded by shadows, I suddenly felt a spark of courage. Let's keep moving, I urged, breath steadying. As I looked at my companions, I knew we were in this together. No matter the outcome, I would face the truth for all our sakes. But as we made our way down the side passage, we stumbled upon another door, this one illuminated by a flickering fluorescent light. A wave of hope rushed through my this our way out. Before I could reach out for the handle, the door swung open abruptly, and there, encased in the light, stood a figure that made my heart drop. A person from my past, a ghost who had slipped through my memories like sand through my fingers. Henry, the figure said, eyes wide with shock and recognition. You shouldn't be here. My breath caught in my throat as I stepped back involuntarily. Standing before me was someone I had never thought I would see again, someone whose presence bore old wounds and unfinished dialogues. A person whose connection to my father was more intricate than I had ever imagined. Silence hung in the air, oppressive yet electric, pulling every fiber of tension taut. I could feel the stirrings of the past swirling around us, a storm of chaos amidst a fragile weave of memories and secrets. The figure's presence cracked open a door I hadn't realized I had closed, setting the stage for truths that had waited far too long to be spoken. And just as uncertainty coursed through me, the sound of footsteps echoed once more, shattering the moment of recognition. We were running out of time, running out of options, and the stakes had never been higher. "Who are you?" I finally breathed, knowing that this moment would alter the course of my life and I wouldn't be escaping without answers. The air thickened with tension as I awaited a response, uncertain about what this ghost from my past would reveal. The figure, whose familiar yet distant gaze bore into mine, hesitated, as if weighing the significance of each word. "Henry, it's," they trailed off, an unsteady breath escaping their lips. "It's been a long time. You should have stayed away from this place. It's dangerous." Nathan shifted beside me, glancing between us, his brow furrowing deeper with every passing second. "We don't have time for this. Who the hell are you?" His voice was laced with urgency, but I felt frozen, caught in the web of remembrance and unresolved questions. The figure stepped forward, resolving into the likeness of Margaret, my father's closest friend from years past. The memories rushed back, a whirlwind of laughter and shared secrets, afternoons spent in my father's study, the scent of herbal tea wafting through the air. Yet tinged with those memories was a shadow, a lingering darkness that had never fully dissipated. "Margaret?" I echoed, the name barely a whisper on my lips. "What are you doing here? There's so much you don't understand," she started, her voice trembling. "Your father, he made choices to protect you, to shield you from a reality that could have swallowed you whole." The weight of her words sank into my chest, pulling me deeper into confusion. Protect me? From what? What was so dangerous that he had to hide it all? This place, it's not just an archive. It holds secrets that could change everything about your life, Henry, she said, glancing nervously towards the corridor we had just come from. If they find out you're here, the people in the boots? Sophie interjected, her face paling. What do they have to do with any of this? Everything, Margaret replied, urgency threading through her words. They are not just searching for your father's past, they're looking for you now. You're the last piece of a puzzle they believe could give them power. A fear curled like smoke around my heart, but beneath it flickered something more potent, a resolve to unearth the truth no matter the cost. What do you mean power? Your father was involved in something much larger than you could imagine. They thought taking him out would end it, but they underestimated him. And now they will come for you, she said, her tone hardening. That's why I began looking for you again. I couldn't let you walk into this blind. A multitude of questions scrambled in my mind like a tempest. Would you have come looking for me if we hadn't found each other like this? But before she could answer, the distant echoes of heavy footsteps grew louder, drawing closer as the air bristled with menace. Instinctively, we pressed against the walls, shadows smothering our forms like a thick veil. We need to go, now. Nathan urged, gripping my arm. Wait. I shouted, torn between the urgency to flee and the overwhelming desire for answers. Margaret, what else don't I know? What did my father sacrifice? She moved closer, her voice barely above a whisper as she glanced frantically towards the sound of impending footsteps drawing nearer. You have to trust me. When the time comes, remember the journals. They're not just his, they're yours, your legacy. Before I could respond, there was a screeching of metal, and the corridor floor trembled beneath our feet. The unmistakable sound of a door crashing open sent adrenaline surging through our veins. Go! Margaret cried, shoving me towards another exit, her eyes filled with an unsettling mix of fear and resolve. Find the truth, it's the only way to protect yourself. Wait. We can't just leave you. I protested, torn between my instincts to help and the gnawing reality of our imminent escape. Please, just run. It'll hold them off. She insisted, and the finality in her tone left no room for argument. With a heart laden with dread and regret, I turned, clutching the canvas bag with the journals as I sprinted down the passageway alongside my friends. The shadows loomed larger behind us, echoing the breathless reminder of everything we had left unresolved. As we raced towards unknown safety, I cast a Final glance back at Margaret, her silhouette shrinking in the distance, swallowed by chaos. One question lingered painfully in my heart: had our paths really crossed just to unveil a truth that could haunt us all? In that moment, a bitter sting of hope intertwined with despair settled in my chest. Together, we bolted toward the future, but with every hurried step, I felt the weight of countless sacrifices pressing down on me, whispering secrets of a legacy that reached far beyond myself. And just as we stumbled into a wider space, plunging into the safety of shadows, I heard a distant voice calling after us, one that I recognized but had never wanted to hear again. "Henry! You can't escape your past." The chilling weight of those words wrapped around me like chains, and I knew that our escape was only just beginning. The echo of that haunting voice echoed in my mind as we plunged deeper into the labyrinthine corridors ahead. Nathan and Sophie were muffled shadows beside me, their haste mirroring my own racing heart. We had entered what looked like a dilapidated warehouse, the walls coated in layers of dust and secrets that seemed to hang thick in the air, suffocating yet charged with a restless energy. "Where do we go?" Sophie gasped, glancing around as if the distant threats could manifest from the very walls. "We have to find an exit," Nathan urged, his usual calm demeanor beginning to crack under the pressure. "Somewhere away from here. We need to think." But even as we searched the dim environment, my mind was racing with what Margaret had revealed. My father's choices had been driven by a purpose I couldn't comprehend. A legacy wrapped in danger and shadows. The journals she had mentioned, what truths lay within their pages? What had my family been involved in that could reach into my present and threaten my future? "Henry." Sophie's voice broke through my reverie, tinged with worry. "Are you okay?" I forced a nod, though inside, I felt like I was unraveling. The weight of being a target for unknown forces, coupled with the burden of my father's hidden life, left me feeling like I was walking through a fog of uncertainty. "We just need to get out of here," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We moved through the warehouse, careful to avoid the scattered debris along the ground. A flickering light above cast more shadows than it revealed, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. My fingers traced the rough surface of the journal peeking from my bag, a tether to my past and possibly a weapon against it. Suddenly, a sound crackled like thunder through the space, drowning out the silence. The heavy footsteps we had heard a company of them were closing in. Through a narrow gap in the wall, we could see silhouettes moving swiftly. The figures were clad in dark uniforms, the same ominous boots we had encountered before. "Over here," I hissed, pointing to a door tucked away in the far corner. My heart hammered violently as we sprinted towards it, the sound of footsteps echoing ominously behind us. Once at the door, I pressed my ear against the cold surface, listening intently. The relentless pounding of my heart mingled with muffled voices, underscoring the urgency of our situation. "Henry," Nathan whispered, his breath ragged. "What if we get caught? What if they find Margaret?" The question hung between us like a specter of doubt. The silence felt heavy, and a sudden wave of guilt crashed over me. The urgency to discover the truth battled with a paralyzing fear. Had I endangered everyone I cared about? Just a moment. I forced myself to focus on the sound of the voices outside. I needed to know who was coming for us. Just then, the door behind us groaned, startling me. "Now or never," I urged, pushing the heavy door open. It creaked ominously, revealing a narrow alleyway shrouded in shadows that felt thicker than the darkness of the warehouse. Without a moment's hesitation, we slipped through, the frigid air biting at our skin. Once outside, we could see the ghostly outlines of old buildings standing guard around us, their windows like soulless eyes staring down at our frantic escape. We moved stealthily, sticking close together, whispering urgent plans filled with threads of hope. "Where do we even begin?" Sophie asked as we ducked behind a low wall. "The journals," I replied, my hands trembling slightly as I spoke. "I think they might hold the secrets we need. Maybe they'll explain everything." Before Sophie could offer her thoughts, we were jolted by the sound of heavy boots pounding in the distance. I turned to see two dark figures emerging from the alley's mouth, their faces obscured but their intent clear. The hunt was on. "Come on." Nathan pulled me sharply, pushing us down another path. We darted into a small courtyard, now hurriedly searching for any sign of safety. In the far corner, a small flicker of light caught my eye. It bounced, reflecting off something metallic, a car, parked and seemingly unoccupied. "We can hide in there." I urged, and without question, we raced to it. As we crouched beneath the car, my heart pounding in my ears drowned out everything else, and I became acutely aware of the way my breath transformed from panicked gasps into shudders. My mind narrowed down to what lay ahead. I longed for answers, for redemption, for a way to break the cycle of blood and hidden truths, but then, through the thick haze of fear, a sudden reflection caught my eye. A figure hovered just outside our refuge, shadows spilling like ink. My heart sank as the features became vaguely familiar. It was a woman, face shadowed but unmistakable. "Henry," she called out softly, her voice cutting through the tension like a beacon. "You must listen to me." It was then, amidst the chaos of flight, that I realized I was no longer only facing the darkness of my father's past. I was grappling with the haunting specter of my own future, a future that now depended on secrets I too would need to confront, and as she stepped closer, her chilling words reverberated in my mind: "You're not safe here. You've been followed, and the truth is about to get much darker." With that, I could only hold my breath, acutely aware that the path I had taken could lead not just to revelations, but to repercussions that would send the very fabric of my existence crashing down around me. The tension in the air thickened as the woman's silhouette flickered in and out of focus against the scattering shadows. Time slowed, and it was as if the universe held its breath. I fought to piece together everything I had learned, everything I had lost. Her presence pulled at the tendrils of memory, intertwining fear and bewilderment into a tapestry of unresolved questions. "Who are you?" Nathan's voice trembled beside me, barely a whisper, yet loud enough to pulse through the silence that enveloped us. The woman stepped closer, her features drowning in a depth of gloom, but a flicker of vulnerability touched her eyes. "I'm someone who knows how precarious your situation is and the truth you've inherited." She paused, allowing her words to sink in, as if weighing the burden she was about to bestow. "Your father knew this day would come. He prepared you, Henry. But there is so much more to the story. What could possibly be more?" Every sentiment I had about my father felt in danger of devolving into confusion. The dark secrets already had a chokehold on my identity. What validation could possibly come from his prior reckoning with fate? I shook my head, bitterness clawing at my insides. "You don't know what he put me through. He left me with nothing but betrayal. Or that he set you on a path to uncover the legacy that would choose you," she replied softly but firmly. "You need to listen. Something valuable has been hidden, something that could shift the balance of power within your family. And there are those out there who want to keep it buried." Her words stirred a longing, a way to honor my father's choices while lifting the shroud enveloping his intentions. "But I don't even know if I can trust you," I murmured, angst battling with curiosity. Suddenly, an echo of distant footsteps reverberated off the walls surrounding us. Panic ignited the air, and instinctively I reached for Nathan and Sophie, drawing them closer. "What do we do?" Sophie whimpered, the rapture of my emotions entangled in her gaze. "We can't stay here," Nathan breathed, urgent and intense. "We need an escape route. Now." The woman hesitated, straining to listen to the advancing figures closing in on us. "I can help you," she said quickly, "but you must step away from what you think you know, especially about your father." I took a deep breath, weighing the consequences. Just moments ago, the need for safety overshadowed the longing for clarity. Yet here was an opportunity, draped in trepidation but shimmering with the promise of understanding. "Then tell me," I urged, stumbling through anxious thoughts. "Where do we go? Follow me." She gestured towards a narrow passageway at the far end of the courtyard, shadow mingling with uncertainty. "There's a safe house not far from here, but we need to move quickly. They will be on our heels." With dredging footsteps echoing louder, we had no choice. I glanced back at the approaching danger gnawing at the corners of my resolve, before taking the leap to step into the unknown. The four of us rushed toward the passage, my heart racing wildly against the rusty tempo of uncertainty. I could feel the pressure of the choices looming, yet the hope of an answer ignited the embers of my determination, a spark fractured by doubt yet fed by desperation. As we emerged onto a dirt-laden street, the woman led us into an alcove hidden by crumbling bricks and delicate vines, nature's stubborn touch clawing through decay. "This will shield us for now," she said, the air shifting as we fell into breathless silence. But we don't have long. The three of us caught our breath, shrouded in shadows that wrapped tightly around us like security's embrace. "What's your name?" I finally found the strength to ask. "Cecilia," she replied. And I once stood where you are afraid, searching for answers. But what you uncover will change everything. The foreboding inflection in her voice sent a shiver coursing through my spine. Change could unfurl both creation and destruction. You keep talking about these secrets, Nathan interjected, eyes narrowing as if he could dissect her truth. Why should we trust you? Because the line between ally and enemy can blur where power lies, Cecilia said, her eyes steel like amidst a flicker of humanity. And I promise you, the only way to truly fend off the darkness looming over you is to understand what that power entails. Your father's choices were excruciatingly deliberate, intensely strategic. A bruising weight settled in my chest. I felt every dream I harbored swirl around me, shattered and undetermined. And behind it all, a thread tightened around my family name, with implications that my choices would wrap around every soul I loved. What if I don't want to be part of it? The question trembled out of me, the fight for autonomy flickering defiantly through the worry gripping my heart. Then you risk losing everything without knowing you've had a choice to begin with, Cecilia replied, the conviction lacing her voice rich with desperation. You have the opportunity to break a cycle that has ensnared generations, but it requires you to confront what you're afraid of most. I caught Nathan and Sophie's gaze, the shared uncertainty weaving tighter in our connection like a lifeblood of understanding. Somewhere within me, the seeds of hope began to germinate. Together we had a chance, even ensconced in darkness, to carve out something more than what was dictated by our past. Then abrupt commotion erupted behind us, a surge of urgency that crackled harshly against the stillness. The footfalls we thought we had escaped slashed through the night, a storm brewing that threatened to sweep us away. Stay close, Cecilia ordered, panic bleeding through her strength as she darted ahead down a side alley, beckoning us. We need to move. As I followed, unsure of the twists and turns that laid ahead, an unsettling thought emerged. The closer I got to the truth, the more perilously close I felt to losing everything I had fought to protect. And just as I rounded a corner, a glimmer caught my eye, an object slipping silently from the shadows, a fragment of cement caught in the corner of my vision, and in that moment, I recognized it as something vital buried amongst the rubble of my father's legacy. Hope and dread melded together, churning deep in my gut. Wait, what was that? I managed to breathe out, my heart racing as I turned to face the darkening path behind us, strife chasing me into the depths of mystery and revelation. But in that instance, as I grasped the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future, I realized how perilously close the truth stood, on the edge, one step away from both salvation and devastation. The night pressed down on us, thick with the promise of revelation and grief. As we rushed through the alley, each hurried step reverberated through the cobblestones, pounding in rhythm with my turbulent heart. Nathan and Sophie were close behind, their breaths heavy with fear and hope intermingled, a cacophony of emotions that weighed not just on us, but on the heavy legacy we carried. I stole a glance back at Cecilia, who pushed forward deftly, the shadows dancing behind her like specters eager to cling to her heels. I could hardly comprehend the splice of time that had passed since I found myself engulfed in this whirlwind of truth-seeking and survival. All I knew was that every revelation about my father loomed heavy, tethered to the collapsing walls of a past I desperately sought to unravel. We came to an abrupt halt as Cecilia pressed her back against a wall, signaling for silence. My instincts kicked in, the creeping shadows echoing with the abrupt sound of voices filtering through the streets. We can't linger. They're searching, she whispered, concern etched across her features. What do you know about this power they want? I asked, finding the courage to speak, no longer able to drown beneath the weight of unanswered questions. What's hidden? Cecilia's gaze bore into me, unflinching yet burdened with an awareness of the web we had become ensnared in. It's tied to the truth your father tried to shield you from, the choices he made to keep you from harm. And it was never just about legacy, it's the risk of what those in the shadows wish to reclaim. Her words spiraled through me, igniting flames of curiosity and dread. But what does this mean for me? I pressed, my voice barely a whisper. For the legacy I'd rather bury. The night around us seemed to still as she regarded me, something desperate in her eyes. It means you have the power to choose either to reclaim what was lost, including your life's truth, or to let it consume you. To allow fear to dictate your fate will make you just another pawn in this battle. Of fear coursed through me, a visceral reminder of how tenuous my grip was on the steely resolve I needed to harness. Yet there was a pulse of anger simmering too, reignited by the thought of being reduced to someone's game. I refuse to be a pawn, I declared, almost instinctively. But deep down, a nagging doubt sank its roots deeper, clawing at the edges of my mind. How do you battle against a power carved in shadows? Good, she responded, a flicker of pride lighting her expression. But that means you have to embrace the truth however challenging or painful it is. Just then, a group of dark figures turned the corner, heavy boots echoing in a ruthless chorus of determination. We held our breath, pressing against the wall, every instinct coiling tightly around the need to flee. "They don't know we're here yet," Nathan murmured, his eyes darting toward Cecilia, ready to take directives. "We will double back," Cecilia planned, slipping the weight of the moment entirely into her voice as she assessed our options. "Trust me, on my signal." I nodded, feeling the tide of fear rising but an undercurrent of assurance tied to the thread of purpose pulling us onward. With a swift glance at the approaching encroachment, I steeled myself, steeling against the memories that haunted like specters behind my father's decisions. Our fates were tightly intertwined, and all that lay ahead rested precariously on the brink of discovery and redemption. Then, with a sudden rush, Cecilia led us forward, merging seamlessly into the alley. In tandem we moved, tightly knit in what began as a frantic race, morphing gradually into a careful cacophony of determination. Every echoing footfall pulled the impending shadows away for a moment, creating space for hope to flourish. But as we darted out toward the safety of the next street, I caught sight of a figure ahead. My heart sunk anew. It was a man dressed in dark attire, his face obscured by a hood. He stood poised, like a watchman guarding the threshold of a dark reality. "Stop right there!" he shouted, his voice carrying authority that sent chills crawling up my spine. My heart lurched as I felt the world eschew the warmth of hope and plunging us back into despair. All hope of extraction dissolved like mist in the air. I stumbled back just as Nathan reacted instinctively, pulling me toward a side exit nearby. "Go!" he barked, his grip tight around my arm as adrenaline surged through his veins. But in that moment of flight, everything froze. The man stepped closer and lifted his hood, revealing a visage that twisted my stomach into knots. Henry Ford III, my father's successor, the figure who had emerged as a seemingly untouchable force in the business world. "Henry," he drawled, his voice dripping with an unsettling calm, "you should really stop running. You don't fully comprehend the danger you're in. Why did you follow us?" I thundered, desperation fueling the rage climbing into the back of my throat. "What do you want?" "What I want is to ensure that you and your newfound friends don't unleash what's hidden. The past has consequences, and some truths are best left buried." His eyes bore into mine with a potency that vibrated with earnest belief. Behind me, Nathan stood tense and rigid, but I felt a newfound sense of purpose surge as I squared my shoulders to confront the very entity that had haunted my family for generations. "Is that your way of saying you're scared?" I demanded, my voice steadying against the pulse of uncertainty. "Or perhaps you're too guilty to reveal the truth." His demeanor shifted, a brief moment of vulnerability flashing behind his cold mask. "You think this is about fear? It's about survival." He took a step closer. "What you're delving into is dangerous. It leads to destruction. You have no idea what forces are at play." Loss washed over me, mingling with the growing flames of clarity within me, the embers of understanding alighting. "Then perhaps it's time someone acknowledges what this family has concealed for too long. Maybe your version of survival hinges on secrets you'd prefer remain hidden." In that moment, clarity struck with shocking resonance. It was no longer just about might, was about confronting the history forged and warped by obstacles my father faced, weighed down by sacrifices in search of redemption. But as I held my ground against the very essence of my family's entanglements, uncertainty still lingered like a specter. "Henry," Nathan urged, his voice grounding me amidst the storm. "He knows too much. We can't trust him, but he does. Knowing the truth might be the only leverage we have against him," I murmured, feeling the rising tide of defiance against a legacy I was finally strong enough to challenge. My gaze shifted back to Ford III, unable to shake off the chilling aura of his presence. He regarded me with a complicated mix of respect and irritation. "You're too young to understand what's at stake," he warned, his tone hardening. "But if you persist, you'll find yourself at the very epicenter of an unraveling storm." Certainly sounds like something you'd rather keep under wraps. The boldness of my resolve surged, urging me forth even as darkness loomed unnervingly close. But then, just as I opened my mouth to retort, a shouting crowd surged down the alleyway behind us, forcing a chill through the air. In that moment, clarity struck. More than just confrontations awaited us, realities would fracture. "We have to move," I urged, tugging Nathan and Sophie toward shadows nearby, but Ford III's voice called after us, rich with a twisted kind of urgency, "You may discover more than you bargained for, Henry." The truth is a double-edged sword, and as we pounded to escape, every heartbeat echoed a fear wrapped in resolve, unearthing questions of truth, legacy, and consequence. The sword of my father's past poised against the wonderment of an unfolding future. The path we took led us into the spiraling streets, noses pressing forward, flanked by darkness. As the distant shouts faded into uncertainty, so too did the remnants of what we understood so far. Yet, within the depths of that darkness lay a flicker of hope, the promise of liberation entwined with the resilience of facing what we often shied away from. But it was when I glanced down, catching the glimmering cover of a journal peeking from the canvas bag, that I felt the spark of courage blossom anew. It was a testament of communion, a gateway toward truth. Whatever lay ahead, revelation or ruin, it pressed me into realization. Sometimes, one must hold the weight of their legacy in hand to carve a path free from its chains, and as the echoes of our surroundings gave way to the pulse of our imaginations, I understood with irrevocable certainty walking through this storm wouldn't merely reshape my legacy, it would redefine me, finally etching my name in the annals of my family's history, beyond the shadows that had plagued our hearts. In this tale of revelation and rebirth, one step closer to understanding the fragility of power and the resilience of truth among it all, I would finally find my place.